Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Nickel City Mafia pregame report for the Washington football team versus the Buffalo Bills. I'm Mike Thornton, and joining me today, and I'm really excited about this announcement here. This young man brings a lot of passion for our football team. He knows the ins and outs of football. He's been around football, I believe, all his life. My new co-host, Jake Podger. Jake, welcome to the channel, man. How you doing?
Oh, I'm phenomenal, Mike. I woke up this morning, walked outside. It is a crisp fall day. We're ready for football. I'm fired up. I'm ready to crack a Labatt right now. Actually, I'm going to do it live stream because we're ready to go.
Let's go.
And let's get the show rolling. I'm ready to talk football. I got to talk to someone else other than my wife because she's getting sick and tired of it. So let's just do this. Here we go.
Jake, I'm super happy to hear that because I have no one else up at this time. Of course, I'm on the West Coast coming to you here at 7 in the morning. Had to get up at 5:30, get the makeup, going and all that. Try to look halfway decent for the show. Never works for me, but super excited to have you. Tell the folks a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I live in Buffalo, just outside of Buffalo, and been a Bills fan my whole life. Unfortunately, I missed the really good glory years when they were, going to 4 straight Super Bowls and everything. I was maybe a thought at the time. I was born in '93, so I just caught the tail end of it. But here I am now, and I think we're getting back to those glory years, I hope. I mean, we'll see what happens today, but feeling pretty good going into this week. So, yeah, played football, love it, breathe it. I mean, it's everything. Pretty much on Sundays, I hate to go back to my wife again, but she's pretty much a widow on Sundays. I'll sit here all day. I'll watch it from sun up to sundown, and even after sundown, and usually the post game and all that stuff. And then I rewatch, Sunday night or NFL prime time and all that too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm into it. I'm here for it. I love it, and yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh, no problem whatsoever. I was looking for a co-host that could do the show permanently with me, and I found the gem in you. So thanks again for joining. I have to ask you. Here I am on the West Coast. I'm always looking for good pizza. It's just not the same out here. I'm always looking for good chicken wings. It's just not the same. But what's your go-to place for pizza and chicken wings?
Okay, so they're separate here because
Okay.
a lot of pizza places have great wings. Don't get me
Mm-hmm.
wrong. I think any mom and pop shop in Buffalo typically has pretty good wings. I haven't been to a place that really doesn't have good wings outside of Buffalo Wild Wings, but they're a chain. So we don't even want to acknowledge that, and I am still a little upset that Josh Allen has a partnership with them. And I think he knows better too because he has my go-to place as his favorite wing place, which is Barbell. So Barbell Tavern in East Aurora, I think by far best wings in Buffalo, best wings on the planet. Now I haven't tried every wing in Buffalo, but I've tried a good amount. Another place that I've been seeing getting some plugs is Wing Nuts, and I don't know if you follow Pardon My Take with Barstool Sports or anything like that.
I
But
do see them.
so they went to this place. It's in the Knights of Columbus, and I got to get there. I got to still try their wings. So, but yeah, I mean, out of all the wings I've tried, definitely Barbell, hands down, takes the cake for that. Now for pizza, I'm going to go with two for here. Part of it is an emotional tie, and they always have really good pizza anyways, but I think the best pizza in general that I've had in Buffalo, hands down, is probably Picasso's. Now, on the other spectrum of that, I am a loyal person. So I always go to Bella Pizza, which is right near me. Shout out to Alexis Weigel, incredible manager there. I figured I'd have to give her a shout out if she does watch this. They're amazing. They do great work. And whenever she's on call, I notice the pizza actually gets a little bit better. So maybe that's a nod to her. I don't know. But yeah, I love Bella Pizza, specifically the one on Route 5 near my house. That's all I'm going to say. But Picasso's by far, I think, is probably the best pizza. I do like Imperial a lot too, Mike. I know you're a South Buffalo guy. But I think just across the board, Picasso's has been the best.
Yeah, Imperial is the last one I've had in Buffalo when I visited, and it's been a while since I've been back to Buffalo. But my kids lived there on Marilla Street, and we'd go to Imperial, and it's just so good. I can't find it out here. Barbell did make my show that I did a few months back when I talked about the great foods of Buffalo, and also I hear the beef on weck there is amazing as
phenomenal.
well. So
Yes.
awesome stuff, Jake. Thank you so much for sharing. So let's talk a little bit. Let's recap the game from last week. It's hard to find any fault with a 35-0 victory, right? We needed a rebound victory. You called it. You called it in a big way. You said, hey, the Bills are going to rebound in a big way. You predicted 38-17, and you said you were just giving them a few points to make them feel a little bit better because you knew my co-host who was hosting last week with me was a Dolphins fan, right? So you're being a little kind to him. But so they did. They rebounded in a big way. But I don't know, a lot of folks, especially a couple of the guys that do shows on the channel during the week for us, they talked about that game and they're like, it was 35-0, but it didn't really feel like a blowout for some reason. I mean, obviously the defense was great, spectacular in my opinion. They've been spectacular the first 2 weeks. But the buzz around town, actually I'm talking like I'm around town in Buffalo, but the buzz on the shows that I'm watching talking about Buffalo is something's up with Josh. Something's up with Josh. You and I texted during the game last week. He's underthrowing. He's overthrowing. He's floating the ball out there when he should be zipping it. I mean, what's your take on all this?
I just think Josh is a very emotional player, as we've seen, and I think maybe part of that just has him. Maybe he's thinking too much. Maybe he's trying a little too hard, and I think he's just trying to be a little too perfect. A lot of the aspect with the quarterback is the mental aspect. And I think that's really where he's gotten in trouble in the past too, is you can even see it during the game. His eyes are wide. I think, if he can just settle in, relax, we get a couple of nice quick throws, maybe a couple quick slants, stuff like that to Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley under route, stuff like that. He'll be just fine. We got to get him back to where he was last year. And I know even really dating back to the playoffs last year, his play has sort of taken a dip. After that Colts game, you could see it. I mean, with the Ravens game, he didn't necessarily play a great game. He did enough. And our defense, obviously, Taron Johnson with the pick six. I mean, that right there, that's kind of been really our defense has been taking the Bills this entire course, the last, dating back to last year with the Ravens game, like I said. So with Josh, I just think he's got to settle in and, we just got to make him real nice and comfortable this game, and I think he'll be okay. I think a lot of it, honestly, he just needs to get his mojo back, his confidence back. So maybe he's just not seeing the field as well, and I think really it just comes down to him just trying to make too many plays, trying to make the perfect throw too many times, and it just winds up not being enough. I mean, how often do we see him underthrow a ball? I mean, it really hasn't happened outside of these last two games. So
yeah,
that's my take on that whole thing.
Yeah, with his arm, I mean, it just shocks me when I see him underthrow somebody. He's just trying to put it in there too softly when he really needs to zip it. And I mean, so the theories out there are, well, he signed that big contract, $258 million. He's probably putting a little bit of pressure on him himself to kind of show why he's worth that. Maybe that's one theory out there. The other theory is, well, last year he performed at an elite level when we had no fans in the stadium. So now that fans are back, people are saying that, I don't know, it disrupts them. I have a hard time believing that because the guy played in college, and college has some of the loudest stadiums there are. So, I mean, do you put any weight into those two things?
I do. No, I definitely do. I think there's something to be said about having fans. And like I said, he's a very emotional player. So you'll see him get into the game. And like I said, his eyes, you can literally see they're wide when he's playing. And when his eyes are wide like that, usually it's not a good thing. It's like he's, I don't know, maybe he's just overwhelmed or something. I don't know what it is exactly, but I definitely do think that does have a piece in it. Obviously, with fans being back, home field advantage is huge for us. So I just think, like I said, I think he needs to just settle in today. And if he needs to silence the crowd, just do this. I think the crowd will abide. And, just get some nice rhythm throws. We'll be all right.
Yeah, I see him doing that all the time at Highmark Stadium, especially when he first comes out there.
I hate the name of that, by the way. No offense to Blue Cross Blue Shield. They are my healthcare provider. However, let me tell you this. What a terrible name for a stadium. Highmark Stadium is trash. I'm going to say that on the record, and I don't mean to offend anyone, but not a fan of that.
Gotcha. You'll have to tell me a little more about why that is.
It'll always be Rich Stadium.
Oh yeah.
It'll always be Rich Stadium.
You and I will need to talk because I was around for those glory days. I was through those 4 Super Bowls. You mentioned that early on, so let's talk, and then I want to hear about your Rich Stadium to me as well. I just before we move on, just a couple things on Josh, a couple stats. So everyone's talking about last year he opened up. First of all, we played the Jets to open last season, right? and he had a 72% completion rate, right? And that's the Jets. And then we had the Dolphins, who he normally does extremely well against, and he lit them up for 71% completion rate. He threw for 415 yards. Now, fast forward to this year, we didn't have the Jets to open up against. We had the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Steelers are one of the top 5 defensive teams from last year. And it's looking like, as long as TJ Watt stays healthy, that they're going to be one of the top 5 elite defenses this year. So Josh threw for, he completed 59% of his passes. Now, you look last year when we played Pittsburgh, and he completed 56% of his passes. So, I mean, that's a wash. You're playing an elite team. Now, the one that everyone, I think, really has them worried about is this the game against the Dolphins, where he only completed 52% of his passes, Jake. And, I mean, the Dolphins defense, while they were a bend but don't break defense last year, points against, they were top 10. But yardage, they were 20th overall, so they give up a ton of yardage. And that defense is pretty much the same that we faced last year. And Josh is throwing for 179 yards. So I think that has a lot of people worried. I don't know. I take it as, look, interdivision games are always tough. The Dolphins see us twice a year. They probably were embarrassed last year when the playoffs were on the line in that last game and we blew them out 56-26. So my take is that they just came planned. They planned well for us, and I think I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all. Josh will get back to where we expect Josh to be, and if he can, I want him to be playing at a higher level when we're facing teams like KC this year, right? Because KC kept him under 60% completion last year in both those games. So anyhow, that's my last thing on Josh. I'm not worried at all. Sounds like you're not worried either.
Not at all. No, not at all. And like you said, I mean, credit to the Dolphins defense. They, they may have gotten shut out. They let up 35 points and everything. But, I mean, you got to remember, too, we got some really good players on offense. Even though we didn't show up with our A game offensively, I mean, we still have some ballers, And at the same time, the Dolphins on defense, I mean, Xavier Howard is a stud. Byron Jones, hit or miss. He's up and down with his play. Still a good football player. So their 2 corners are great. I do like their defensive line a lot, too, and even their linebackers. I mean, they're not a bad team, really. And defensively, like you said, they really have been a better team defensively over the last couple of seasons. And Brian Flores is a defensive-minded coach. So I think they did do as good of a job as they could have against us, even though they did let up 35 points.
Yeah. So I want to give a shout out to a couple of folks in the channel. Tonawanda Rock, I think they know you, Jake. Hey, Jake, I'm watching with your father-in-law. You guys sound great. Yeah. How about a shout out, Tonawanda Rock? Thank you for joining the channel.
I love the username there. It's amazing.
So you know who that is, right?
I think that's my mother-in-law, I would assume. She says watching with your father-in-law, unless it's like someone else in the family that's watching with him. I don't know.
Well, we appreciate
Troy's in the chat too.
Yeah, I see Troy Gregory Media. I hate the branding of the stadiums.
I agree with that, Troy. I think you got to make it something more relatable to the actual football side of it, not so much the business side of it, if that makes sense. Even Ralph Wilson Stadium, I think that was really nice. Obviously named after the owner. I mean, I was a little upset when they changed it from that to New Era Field. I was like very...
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, it didn't really sit with me too well, but definitely agree with that. Also, Troy, I know you said you weren't really happy with my prediction last week, but it was pretty close, and I even gave you guys 17 points, so I'm just saying.
That's great. So Jake, tell us about this Washington football team. What do we need to know?
Yeah, well, the big thing with them is obviously their defensive line. Chase Young is an absolute stud. Jonathan Allen has 3 sacks this year. Matt Ioannidis, I'm not sure if he's going to play or not, but very underrated rotational player as well. Kid came out of Temple. He's done a really nice job throughout his career so far. Very, very impressed with him, too. Deron Payne, absolute stud. And then, obviously, Casey Tuhill's pretty good, too. And then I think they got a couple other studs, too. But those are just some of the main names on the defensive line that we got to worry about. The Bills' offensive line, they're going to have their hands full. And I think that's really going to be, one of the keys to the game today, really, is just seeing how well our offensive line can stay, first off, disciplined, not get stupid penalties, and then really it's a test of their athleticism as a whole because, I mean, these guys are some studs up front, It's going to be tough to block them, but I think, if we can just hold them enough, Josh can obviously get outside of the pocket if he needs to. But I think we'll take advantage of the corners. I really do. I do like Kendall Fuller and William Jackson a lot too, but I think Stephon Diggs is going to have a day. And I'm sorry, I'm rambling right now. This is what I do, Mike. I get really into it, and I just lose my mind. So keep me on track if I go too much off track, because I already started talking about the Bills. Going back to Washington, I think defense is kind of going to be key for them. Offensively, I mean, we have the return of Logan Thomas, who, when he was here, he was young into his tight end career. Didn't really do a whole lot. He was a quarterback who was drafted by the Cardinals in the 4th round. I think it was 2014. And I remember watching him at Virginia Tech, and it was interesting because everyone was like, maybe he's going to switch positions. I think he did play. He played one game with Arizona. He went like 1 for 11, but threw an 81-yard touchdown pass. So pretty interesting. I remember watching that live, and I'm thinking, man, this is crazy. Like, the guy threw one completion. It was for a touchdown for 81 yards. So maybe he's just a boomer bust guy, kind of like Tim Tebow.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we saw how it worked out with Tim Tebow, unfortunately. I do like Tim Tebow. A lot of people hate him. I really do like him, and I appreciate what he tried to do. Obviously, it didn't really work out with his NFL career. But going back to him, I think we're really going to have to key in on Logan Thomas a little bit. And obviously, Terry McLaurin, really good player. Reminds me of Keenan McCardell a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Very underrated player who actually finished his career with the Washington football team. And then I really also like Adam Humphries. Cannot be remiss if I did not mention him. He's unbelievable. He's been very good under the radar player. A lot of catches, not a ton of gain on him. I mean, I think he averages like 6 or 7 yards a catch, but I really do like him as well. And then obviously the two backs, J.D. McKissick and Antonio Gibson. So
yeah, I agree.
Taylor Heineke. Don't forget
yes,
about Taylor
Heineke. I was just gonna ask you about them. This kid, I mean, getting a start because we were all expecting to see Fitzpatrick, right? And Fitzpatrick goes out game 1. In comes Taylor Heineke, who did an absolute amazing job in the playoff against the Buccaneers last year. Gave them a run for their money. And he's looked good out there. And one of the questions I have for you, now I think a lot might have to do with how he does in this game. But let's say he does perform well. Do you think they put him back to the bench, or is he the guy going forward?
If Taylor Heineke continues to play well, I think he will be the guy. I mean, he's shown he's played big in big moments.
Mm-hmm.
Even last year against Tampa Bay, I mean, they almost won that game, and he played a hell of a football game. So, and even so, I mean, up until this point, I mean, he's only really played 1.5 games, but in the 1.5 games that he's played, he's looked really good. I've been very impressed with him. I'm a big Taylor Heineke fan. Incredible story. I'm a big XFL guy too. He wasn't even the starter with the XFL. Jordan Teamu was the starting quarterback for them.
Wow.
I think he was with the Chiefs, but I don't know if he's actually in the league right now at this moment. So, pretty interesting stuff with that. But yeah, I think he will be the guy. And I hate this. I love Fitzy so much, and I feel so bad for him. But I just, you got to roll with the hot hand.
Yep, totally agree. All right, enough about last week. Let's get into the details of this week, Jake, and let's start with the injury report. So this week for the Buffalo Bills, questionable Dane Jackson and Levi Wallace. Now both of them were full participants in Friday's practice, so I'm thinking they're going to be there. Hold on a sec, Jake. I'm not sure why I don't see you right now in the overlay, but let me go back to. I'm still here. Let me see what's going on there real quick. Let's get you back in. Yes, they do. Hold on one sec. We'll have you up and running in no time. So go ahead and talk about those injuries, Jake, while I'm getting you added here.
I've been pretty impressed with him. I really, really do like him.
And then on the so talk to me a little bit about, let's say they both are out, right? And as I adjust you into the screen here, sorry everyone. But
I love the comments here. Looking on NFL at Screen Variety TV already. Love that.
nice.
I'm trying to keep up with the chat where I can. We do have a little bit of a delay, guys, so I apologize that I'm a little late on some of these.
Yeah, it's about 11-second delay from when we're talking about things until we see the response. So, all right, I got you added in there, Jake. Sorry about that. It just comes with the territory, first time doing a show together. But talk to me about if those two guys can't go, who are we calling up from the practice squad, do you think?
Well, I think there's a couple options. Obviously, I mentioned Cam Lewis. I think he would be the most. It would make the most sense to pull him up. Obviously, just because he's already got the game time experience and whatnot. But a couple other guys to maybe mention, just Elijah Griffin, who we actually talked about. And actually, Mike, I want you to share that story with these folks because I don't know if they know that story. You surprised me with this one. I wasn't really in tune with this either. I didn't really know it.
Yeah, so let me give you a little insight to that. So, this is right before camp started, and my son he plays flag football. My son's 9 years old. So we actually got diverted to a different field because the field we usually play on was rained out the night before, and actually the other field we went to handled the range as well. So we're there at the game, and I see this guy decked out in Bills colors. He's got a nice white shirt on. It says Bills. He's got the blue shorts on, and he looks like a player. He looked like a player. But anytime I see somebody sporting the Bills gear, I walk up to him, say hello. So I did. We walked up to him, said, hey, I'm a huge fan of the Bills. I see you're sporting the colors. What's your connection to Buffalo? And he says, I was just signed as an undrafted free agent. My name's Elijah Griffin. And he was out of USC. And we're like, oh my God. I got to tell you, at first he said, I play for the Buffalo Bills. And I'm like, embarrassed a little bit because I'm like, oh my God, I don't recognize you. And I should. I do a show about the Bills. So I was getting a little worried. And he says, no, I was just signed undrafted free agent from out of USC. And super nice kid. He took some pictures with my son and I. It was my son was so excited to meet a real football player, especially from the Buffalo Bills. And a little side note, so after we got home, we're doing some research on Elijah, and his dad is rapper Warren G. So regulators mount up, and then also his
Mafia mount up. Too.
Right. And then also his uncle is Dr. Dre. So how cool is that? I mean, it's super cool. We've been pulling through for him all through camp. We knew it was going to be a long shot for him to make the 53 active roster. He didn't, but when they re-signed him to the practice squad, my son and I had a little party ourselves. We're super happy. And he's a potential. I don't know. I mean, Cam Lewis seems like the natural one to bring in. He's got the experience. He actually started for us in a game in a pinch last year. But anyhow, that's the backstory. And so that's why we're pulling for him. So thanks for throwing that over.
Yeah. Those personal stories are really what make it too. I really enjoy learning about the backgrounds of different players. It's funny, a lot of like myself and my buddies, we always look up like Wikipedia pages of players and all that just to look at their personal info, get a little bit of extra background on them. So that's something I do quite frequently. And it's funny, you mentioned you didn't really recognize Elijah Griffin at first, and you're like, oh shoot, I'm so embarrassed. Like I should know this guy. He's a Bills player. So oftentimes, my brother-in-law, we like to dabble and we go out to a couple bars every once in a while. So there was one time I remember we were at a bar. It's pitch black. You can't see anyone. And I see from the bar, at the bar top, I see it looks like a football player. I could tell. And I'm like, oh man, I could tell by the hair. I knew it was Dawson Knox. And he's like, dude, how did you know that? I'm like, you could just tell by the physique. And he's like, oh, the physique. Okay, you can tell by the physique. So no, I love that. That's awesome, great stuff. But yeah, I always try to learn a little bit more about the player themselves. I try to learn more about themselves than they know about themselves. So if that makes any sense.
Yeah, he was a top corner recruited out of high school for USC. So he's definitely got some skills. Obviously, the Bills see something in him as well. So we'll see. We'll see if he gets a chance. But I think if they had to call somebody up, it'd be Cam Lewis. But we won't know that for a little bit. We're getting close to 90 minutes before game time, so that's usually when they make those announcements.
Oh, the juices are flowing, Mike.
Right.
Flowing. Here we go.
So in case, I know I asked you to talk about Dane Jackson and Levi Wallace, but I could hear you, but the folks cannot hear you until I got you added to the show. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's rewind a little bit there. Dane Jackson, Levi Wallace. I mean, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. So Levi Wallace, obviously, we kind of know the background on him. Very up and down. Very up and down. Obviously, we'd like him to play if he's healthy. I think he's going to play. I don't know if he's necessarily the long-term solution there, though. I really don't believe that's the case. On the other end, Dane Jackson, I think, was an incredible value pick in the 7th round, 2020 it was, when we picked him out of Pitt. And I've been very impressed with his play. I think as far as improvements go, he may be one of the most improved players on that Bills defense. So very excited for him. I think they're both going to play today. I'm not too worried about it. But in general, I think I'm a little more excited about Dane Jackson personally, just because of what I've seen. Obviously you can tell the improvement's been there, and obviously a very solid tackler, very physical player. And I love that. I love that from a defensive back perspective. So yeah, definitely about that. And then don't forget about Rashad Wildgoose either.
Yep.
The goose might be loose.
Yep, absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see who they bring up, if they need to bring someone up, because if both these players are going, they obviously probably won't. But you're right. I mean, Levi Wallace for the past few years is always having to defend his starting spot there, right? He's always getting challenged. A lot of talk. I mean, Dane Jackson looked really good last year during late in the season, and a lot of folks thought he might overtake that starting role. And I know you're a huge fan. And then during preseason, I don't know. It was hard to kind of say that Dane Jackson earned the starting spot, and that's maybe why he didn't. But I agree with you. He's an up and coming star, and I thought Levi rebounded nicely last week. Nicely before he got injured and went out for the game, he made some nice plays there. So he's always looking over his shoulder, unfortunately. And let's hope that he's in the game. I want both these guys playing as well today. So,
yeah, absolutely.
All right. So over on the Washington football team, Matt Ioannidis is out. He was questionable.
Oh, it's official.
It's official. He is out. So that's a pretty big loss for them. He's not a starting guy, huge. But he comes in, gives some fresh guys out there, fresh bodies. And back in 2019, this guy had 8.5 sacks. Now, a lot of
people don't know that.
Yeah, I mean, this guy is a playmaker. Last year, he missed most of the season with a torn bicep, and so he's back this year, and he's out for this game. So that's kind of a big loss for them. And that's really...
It definitely is.
Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I mean, that's huge. Like I said, he's more of a rotational guy now, but at the same time, I mean, that's a big piece of the defensive line. Don't sleep on that guy. I also meant to mention Montez Sweat. That guy's a stud, too. So we got a lot of guys to prepare for. At least we got one person off the list that we don't have to worry about. But plenty more where that came from. So that defensive line is stacked.
So pretty clean injury report when you look at it. And that's really it on the Washington side. So let's get into let's start talking about some of the key matchups that we see. And I'm going to start with mine, Jake. You can tell me if I'm crazy or not. I know a lot of people are talking about it's going to be the Bills O-line versus the Washington football team's D-line. I'm kind of take the opposite approach there. I'm going to say it's the key matchup is the Washington football team offensive line versus our defensive line. A lot of folks, I know it's only been 2 games, but Jake, I'm seeing us, we've elevated in a big way. Not only has Starr come back, and I think I love Starr. I always say his name wrong. Latualea. Right, Latualea. There you go. I always want to throw that. I always want to throw that extra on there. But with him coming back, and it showed last week, he just clogs up that run game. He lets those edge rushers get free. I'm so happy that he's back. He was on the injury report early on in the week, but I think he was just nursing his calf still. But he's back in, and it's making a huge difference. So to me, it's really going to be, are we going to see what we saw in the first 2 weeks? I believe this Bills defense, if I'm right, Jake, I'm seeing them shutting down Heineke this game. So I'll wait to give you my prediction. But with Epinesa looking like a stud, with Russo looking like a stud, and like I said, with those interior defensive linemen just taking the pressure off those guys, Heineke is not going to have much time to throw. Now, I'm sure they're going to try to run, do a lot of play action with their game. But to me, this is a huge matchup. And this is kind of one of the key matchups for me. I think we could really shut them down here. I didn't go the other way, and I think you're going to talk about that a little bit, because I actually feel like Josh and the offensive line is going to do their job, and I'll tell you why. I've watched those first two games of Washington. Now, they don't look like the defense that we saw last year. They just don't. They barely beat Washington. I'm sorry, they barely beat the Giants, right? That was a close game. The Giants should have won that game.
Yeah.
And it was a very close game. And then they didn't look really good in their first game, where they lost to the Chargers. That was a close game, of course. And the Chargers are a good team. I believe the Chargers are a playoff team. And but anyhow, that's my take from there. One of the key matchups. And then again, I said, because of their offensive line, they have a rookie right tackle, Samuel Cosmi, and he's going to be going against Russo and Epinesa.
He's struggled already, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Against the run, he's looked good, but against the pass, he is not. I think we're going to be able to take advantage here. So I'm going on the defensive side of things for my key matchups. Any thoughts on that, Jake?
Yeah. So first off, a person that you should really mention, too. Well, I know you mentioned the entire offensive line. You mentioned Sam Cosmi. I think the biggest impact player on that offensive line is obviously Brandon Sheriff, who has been, he's been banged up a little bit, but outside of that, really a model of consistency with his play. He is by far, he's one of the best guards in football, and a lot of people don't give him enough credit either. So it'll be very intriguing to see the matchup interior, offensive line versus defensive line. So I do think if Starr can give him some trouble, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And then they do have their left tackle, Charles Leno, who was a Pro Bowler with the Bears. He was a 7th round pick. He's not bad. I think he struggled to touch in the first 2 games, but that'll be intriguing too. And actually, I kind of talked about in my key matchups with AJ Epinesa versus him.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be very intriguing to watch for sure. But yeah, my thoughts are I like your prediction. I hope it's not a problem at all with the Washington defensive line. But on my side of things, like I said, I think that's our biggest concern really heading into this game, just because I've seen how undisciplined we look in the first 2 games with our offensive line. I think we were a little bit better last week. We cleaned some things up last week, which is good. But we got to be better. We really do. And it's going to be a real test of our athleticism. And then Darrell Williams, I'll tell you what, man, we may need to bring an extra blocker in. I don't know. Maybe Spencer Brown comes in a little bit to help out. But I haven't been super impressed with his play either, unfortunately. And I do like Darrell Williams. I'm a big Darrell Williams guy, but just really haven't seen much out of him this year. A lot of penalties, a lot of issues. So hopefully everything goes well. But
yeah.
And then obviously we got to mention Chase Young. The guy's a freak of nature, absolute stud. Statistically, he's been pretty solid. Not elite, but his presence is always felt every single play. And I think a lot of people have a common misconception. He only had 7.5 sacks last year, which is still good. Don't get me wrong, but everyone's expecting like 15 to 20 sacks out of this guy. Well, he's also getting double teamed every play. The guy bull rushes every play. It's crazy, So the guy's an absolute stud, and I'm definitely a little worried about him. I definitely am.
Okay.
So hopefully our offensive line can handle him.
Okay. So you also mentioned, so we jumped to your key matchups.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right,
I'll
man.
let you keep going.
I love it. The only thing back again, so last year we were kind of, people could run on us, and they did. They ran on us. We got a little better towards the end of the year against the run, but this would be a game that I believe Washington is going to have to run. And this is where I think having guys like Starr back is going to plug that up, and it's going to force them to throw, and that's where we're going to take advantage of it. Now, fast forward to your key matchups. Again, everyone's been talking about that Bills offensive line against one of the better defenses from last year. We know they have studs on there. You already mentioned Chase. They also have Jonathan Allen, and I'll mention him in a little bit. But yeah, it's another good matchup against the team that was one of the top-ranked defense. I think they were number 2 last year, Jake, and everyone's worried about this O-line. I don't know. I think we're going to be fine. We got all the guys from last year. Now, you may have been high on them or not, but they did a really decent job, and I just think they're just going to get better. And so I agree that Washington defensive line is tough, but that's why I didn't have them as one of my key matchups. I'm feeling good about this side of it. Now, I know you may not.
That.
So we'll see. You also mentioned which I was also going to bring this guy up, but I saw that you were going to talk about him, so I left that to you. Terry McLaurin versus Trey White.
Gosh, I'm so impressed with Terry McLaurin, and honestly, the cool part about him is like he is a superstar in the making, and a lot of people don't recognize it because obviously he plays for Washington. They're not I mean, they were at one point at the peak of football. I mean, everyone was talking about Washington. They've kind of, obviously they've had their fall off a little bit, but now I think they're kind of getting back up there. Terry McLaurin is a fantastic football player. I mean, the guy is probably, in my opinion, he's the most underrated offensive player in the league. I compare him to like a guy like Keenan McCardell, a guy who did it, who was very consistent, put up 1,000-yard seasons, and didn't get enough limelight because he was always overshadowed by someone else. Whether it was even on his own team, Jimmy Smith, who also, I'm going to give him a nod right now. They announced the nominees for the Hall of Fame. Jimmy Smith should be considered for the Football Hall of Fame. That guy was an absolute stud. He should have hit. He actually almost had 10 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. He only had 8 or 7 because he was suspended his 8th season. So, anyways, I'm getting off track.
It's all right.
Going back to Terry McLaurin, the first matchup with Trey White, I think it was like a welcome to the NFL moment for him. He had 4 catches for 39 yards on like 6 targets. So Trey White did his job against him. This time around, 2 years later, Terry McLaurin, obviously his craft has improved. He's getting better as a player. I think he's among the top 10 receivers in the league now, which is crazy to say. A lot of people are probably thinking, wow, this guy's nuts for thinking that. I think Terry McLaurin is probably right at 10. He's probably right at 10. But absolute stud. It's going to be a very intriguing matchup. I think Trey White, I do get a little worried with him sometimes. He plays a little too aggressive sometimes, and I think it gets him in trouble. If we can jam Terry at the line and keep him off, getting off his routes and all that, I think we'll be okay. And I think Trey White's going to do his job. But I do expect to see a battle between those two. I don't think it's going to be a 4-catch for 39-yard game for Terry. I think it's going to be more in the 60s this game, maybe like 5 for 62 or something like that. So definitely is going to be fun to watch for sure. So definitely keep your eye out for it. You won't be able to miss it. That's for sure.
Yeah. Do you think they're going to have? They don't normally do this, but do you think they're going to have Trey White shadow him all over the field?
I think they should. Yeah. If they're smart, I definitely think they should, because otherwise we'll be in a lot of trouble.
Right.
But I know it's not something that we typically do, so it's really up to how we scheme it. So hopefully we do. Yeah. I really do hope that we do that.
I agree with you. I think they'd be crazy, especially if our other 2 corners are banged up. I think that that's the smart move to do. So I totally agree. Great info, Jake, on the key matchups there. So on both sides of the ball, we talked about it. So there's we'll see which one. I think both of them are going to come into play. But again, my take on the offensive line, Jake, is I think we're going to be fine. You may after on the post game show, Mike, you were totally wrong, and I'll take that. I'll take that on my shoulders. But I'm feeling good. I don't know why. I'm just feeling good about it. So Jake, let's move into our impact players, and we want to talk about impact players to watch on both teams. And I'll give you mine first. And on the Buffalo Bills, obviously Star. I've been bragging about Star since he's come back. He started last week. He missed first week of the season with a calf injury, but he's back last week, and you could see the difference he makes in that run game. Also, he opens up options for our edge rushers. And then, of course, I got Gregory Rousseau, which he has his first 2 sacks last week. He's outperforming what my expectations were already. I thought there was going to be more development time. I actually thought Boogie Basham, which I'm still surprised has not made it onto active squad for a game. I thought Boogie would make a more of an impact to begin with, but Rousseau has proven me wrong, and I'm glad I'm wrong. This guy is a budding star, and I think we're in good shape. And then you pair him up with Epinesa, and oh my God, we got something special going on our team. The other guy I wanted to mention, because he's been making plays. This guy's an up-and-coming star, I believe. Taron Johnson. I mean, he made the 2 pick sixes last year. He just makes big plays. First two games of the year, this year, he's making plays all over the field. And I have a feeling, I'm just going to make the call right now, he makes a big play today. Something big, maybe pick 6, interception. I don't know, he had a sack last week. I just think something special is coming from this guy. And then on the Washington side of the impact players, Logan Thomas, you already talked about him. We've had some issues with good tight ends, tall tight ends in the past, and Logan Thomas definitely fits that bill. So I think he's going to be an impact player that we need to try to shut down. Antonio Gibson, obviously, he's their main guy on the ground, and he's definitely a great running back. So I think they're going to try to run a lot, Jake. I think they're going to have to, and that just sets up the play action. But I think Antonio Gibson is going to be an impact over there. And then you mentioned him early on, Jonathan Allen, right? He's got 3 sacks already this year. He just signed, I believe it was like a $78 million contract extension this year. So. Yep. Pair him up. I would have mentioned Chase, but I think you're gonna talk about him a little bit. But there you go. Jonathan Allen and Chase on that defensive front for them is definitely could make it a rough day for our boy Josh. Again, I've already said I feel good. We're gonna be able to handle these guys. But what's your take on my impact players?
Yeah, no, I really like that you shed some light on those guys. Personally, I think the key matchup is definitely going to be Jonathan Allen versus our interior offensive line out of the ones that you mentioned there. He has wreaked havoc. I mean, the guy's a stud. Also, on top of that, I'm really happy with the fact that he's bringing back the 1-bar face mask. I love that. That's amazing. That's a good, hard-nosed football player right there, tough, gritty guy. On the other end of it, love the mention of Taron Johnson. I think he's a budding star. Very, very happy with his play. And then Greg Rousseau, I mean, he's just unbelievable. I mean, totally exceeded expectations, and I definitely agree with your take on Boogie Basham, thinking that maybe he would be the guy instead of Greg Rousseau to blossom so fast. But I feel like with Boogie Basham, he's going to be like AJ Epinesa. Maybe it'll take a year, and then next year, we'll be ready to go, because we'll probably lose like a couple of guys next year. Mario Addison might be one of them, and it'd be nice because then he'll get more of a role in the defense itself. So yeah, no, I love where you have these impact players for sure. Logan Thomas is going to be really tough to defend for sure. I mean, last year he had a really nice season, and I think he definitely is now a top 10 tight end in the league. He's tall, big target. He's definitely going to be targeted today, and he's a reliable fantasy option now, which is great. Hopefully, I hate doing this, Mike, but I always have 1 or 2 players each week that somehow end up having to play the Bills, and I don't know what to do. Usually my instinct is saying bench him, but it's tough to say, bench Logan Thomas when you got Evan Ingram sitting on the bench. So I might have to start him this week. So hopefully he does okay, but we hold him in check at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Star, obviously, I mean, that's going to be fun to watch. Him and Brandon Sheriff going at it. That whole interior offensive line, I love that. The battle in the trenches is great. It's good stuff. So, yeah, he'll definitely set the tone for sure. If we can get a nice push, I mean, let those ends run free, pretty much do what they got to do. Greg Rousseau, I think he might be the next Julius Peppers. So we'll see what happens.
Wow, big call there. I like it.
Know.
I like
Bold
it.
statement.
I like it. I like your call on Boogie Basham as well. I do agree with you. He's kind of taking that Epinesa route where they're going to kind of I mean, the one thing with him that I know they're trying to do is he's going to be more involved in not only just as an edge rusher, but on the interior line as well. So I think they're trying to groom him for that. And I don't know if he's been struggling or we just have too much talent already that he's being inactive every week. But I agree with you completely. I think maybe this isn't the year, but I think we'll see him at some point. Obviously, there's going to be injuries that happen, and he's going to get in there. And I think they're just grooming him, and I totally agree. I do believe, though, Jake, if he gets on the field this year, he'll make some plays for us. Unlike Epinesa, which was kind of a, I don't know, people were a little worried about our pick, but they're not anymore, obviously. But I think if Boogie gets in, I think he can make some plays this year for us, for sure. He's just got so much experience in college, and he can play interior, he can rush. I don't know. I see big things for both our guys.
Wake Forest looks pretty good, too, by the way.
Yeah.
4-0. Man, I mean, I don't know if you follow college football too closely, but they look pretty damn good. They're under the radar for sure. Nice.
And actually, no, I don't, Jake. I'm more of a professional teams. I know you're big into the college, and you have some great stories that we can share on another one of our shows for sure, because I love those stories that you have. One of them traveling to Ohio State, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. So let's get into your impact players.
Sure. Yeah, so I guess we should just get right into the D-line. We'll talk about AJ Epinesa. Obviously, we've seen what he did the first 2 games. I mean, the guy looks like a totally different player this year. And I'm so happy about that because I was kind of thinking, boy, I'm gonna have to eat crow, because on my Instagram account where I was doing posts and all that, I had posted saying, I was super thrilled about this pick, first round talent. Like, I don't know why he didn't go later. I had a little bit of inside info from a scout that I know that I'm not going to name, who said that maybe there were some potential character issues, teammate issues, which is why he didn't get taken where he was taken. I don't see any of that right now. I do see that it could be a bit of a hothead. I was told, we were told that he was, in a couple of scuffles in camp and whatnot, but you like to see a little bit of attitude on the D-line. I think you need that, which is great. But what he's done so far, I mean, it is very impressive. He looks like a totally different football player. You can see it. I mean, the aggressiveness, even the size, the strength, everything. He looks just better. And I think he's going to give that offensive line a hell of a day. I think he'll be going up against Charles Leno, or no, that'll be Jerry Hughes. He'll be going up against the other side, so Sam Cosme. Take full advantage of that.
Yeah, exactly.
So that'll be really nice to see. And then as far as other players go, I mean, I mentioned Stephon Diggs. We got to get him involved early. I really do. I think we got to take advantage of his skill set in general. No offense to William Jackson and Kendall Fuller, but I just think that Stephon Diggs is a much better football player. And quite honestly, I think he's going for a $114 today on 7 catches. There's my prediction for that, and a touchdown.
Nice.
So big day from him. I fully expect that. Again, on the defensive side of the ball, Matt Milano, he's played incredible. I'm so happy that we extended him. We reached an agreement with him. He's played lights out football. I think it's going to be very key for him, especially today, because they have J.D. McKissick, who can catch the ball out of the backfield. So definitely got to keep an eye on J.D. McKissick and Matt Milano. That matchup's going to be interesting. Matt Milano is a great cover backer. So that's a really nice bonus with him. And then in addition to that, I mean, he's looked just everything. I mean, you could see him just reading the field and all that. I mean, he looks comfortable. He looks really good. As long as he can stay healthy, he will be elite. He really will be. And then going to the other side, Washington football team. I already talked about Terry McLaurin a little bit. Going to definitely be a key matchup between him and Trey White. That's going to be a fun battle to watch. I think Terry goes for 5 for 62. No touchdowns. Trey's going to shut him down in that category for sure. Chase Young, that's going to be a battle for sure. That's going to be tough. Definitely going to test our offensive line a little bit. Deion Dawkins is going to get his word cut out for him today. So we'll see what happens with that. But Chase Young, obviously, I talked about him quite a bit. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but he is certainly an impact player. Now, for my favorite impact player on the Washington football team. A lot of people, they don't acknowledge the special teams guys. Well, guess what? They have probably the second best punter in the league in Tress Way. Punters are people too, Mike. Punters are people too. And honestly, I'll tell you this. They probably have the best personalities on the team. They're the most fun. Those guys, I mean, you see it with Pat McAfee right now with what he's doing. The guy's absolutely electric. And even in Tress Way's interview, you said you watched an interview with him. He was a hilarious dude.
Yeah.
Goes without saying, punters are the funniest dudes on the team. Punters and kickers, funniest dudes on the team. The guy's averaging 48 yards a punt. The guy has an absolute boot. And really, I hate to be that guy. I don't want to bring this up, but if things don't look so great for us offensively and our defense still plays to the level that they're playing at, it could be a field position game. So flipping the field like he's able to do is going to be really essential for Washington. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen, but I think it can happen, and it can be a scenario that you have to look out for. It's not a sexy pick. It's not a sexy thing to mention, but Tress Way is an absolute stud, and I'd be upset if I didn't mention him. I'd be thinking, like, why did I not mention Tress Way? So those are my 3 impact guys.
I love it. When you mentioned Tress Way, I was like, a punter, huh? Let me go,
right?
Let me go do a little...
Not many teams you can mention a punter as an impact player,
Yeah,
you know?
So I love it. I did a little research on him, and there's a YouTube documentary on him, and great story. He was a place kicker for his high school team, and he, I think a year before he had missed a kick to win a game, and then he got a chance again and made it happen this time around. And then he's a punter over on Washington, and they show him talking it up on the sideline. He hypes his team up.
It's amazing. I mean, that's everything you want.
Yeah,
in a teammate, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So I was super impressed. So I understood exactly why you said Tress Way after you threw that name out there, and I did a little research. So love to take there. Matt Milano, you mentioned. I'm glad you brought him up. People, a lot of the shows around town are saying that he's probably the best defensive player that they've seen on the field through the first 2 games.
Yep.
And I can't disagree with that. And I mean, great. I mean, I haven't given a lot of the credit to the other guys, but Matt's been playing phenomenal. And again, if other people, including you, are seeing that, then it's a no brainer. He's probably has been the best guy we've seen on the field from the defensive side of things.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And I don't claim to know it all, Mike. I don't. I just like watching football. And from what I've seen, these eyes see a really good football player in Matt Milano. So I'm fired up for him. I really am.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that kind of, that gets us through all the details. And I wanted to kind of, it's that time. It's that time, Jake. Let's talk about what you see this game, how you see this game going, and what's your prediction today for the game.
Okay. First off, let me finish my beer.
Go right ahead, man.
Second off, I was trying to paint a picture for you earlier today. I walked outside this morning at about 7 a.m. after waking my daughter. Well, my daughter woke me up. Had to pick her up, change her diaper. Shout out to her. She's a great woman. Gonna be a great woman. I walked outside. Nice, crisp fall day, low 50s. Sun was shining on the grass. You could see the dew kind of coming off and everything. And you just knew football's in the air. Fall is here. Football is officially back. Football was already back, but it's officially back. And I am ecstatic for this game. Could not have picked a better day for a football game. I think it's going to be like mid-60s come kickoff. I really think the Bills take full advantage of this. 26-16, not necessarily a very high-scoring game, but I think the offense is going to look a lot better. We're going to look solid. We're going to look sharp. We're going to play a really good, sound football game across the board. And I think we're going to give Washington hell. I think they may score a touchdown it's going to be like 26-9, and then they'll score a garbage time touchdown, and then maybe Logan Thomas gets me a couple more fantasy points for my league. So 26-16 is my prediction.
Okay. All right.
Great stuff. Yes.
All right. So for me, I've already been saying this. I feel like this is going to be the game Josh breaks out. So I'm calling it 31, a little bit more than you, 31-17. And I believe not all those points will come from the offense. And I'm just saying that. I already kind of said I felt like Taron Johnson is close to making a big play. So 31-17, I feel like the offensive line does a great job, and I feel like the defensive line will do what I already talked about. We're gonna shut down Heineke and basically bring him back down to earth for at least one game. The kid's great. I see great things for him in the future, but not today. That's my take.
I
Jake.
love that. Not today. Not today, Mike.
Not today.
I can't wait to text you once Taron Johnson returns that pick six for 69 yards for a touchdown. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah, we'll be like, let's get the post game showing right now. Let's talk about it right now. Halftime show.
Exactly. Yep.
So
ride that high. I might put some money on it. I don't know. We'll see.
So Jake and I will be back for a post game show for sure. It's going to be, I think, it's 5 p.m. Eastern time, 2 p.m. on the West Coast here. So Jake, any final thoughts that you have for this week?
Final thoughts. Let's go, baby.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go. I might go jump outside and jump onto a table or something. I'm so excited right now, Mike. I'm so excited I'm able to share my excitement with other people now. It's kind of nice outside of just my friend group that comes over. My buddy's making chili. He should be here in
awesome.
Hopefully a couple minutes. So that'll be really nice. Like I said, fall is here. Football is here. You can go outside. You can smell the wood burning stoves and all that. Maybe a little bit of charcoal if you're tailgating. Good luck. Stay safe. Hopefully you get into the game. You don't black out. That would be really good. I think we're getting less and less of that because people want to watch the Bills play, which is great. And I know the whole city of Buffalo feels the buzz. It's really exciting. And go Bills. I'm fired up. I'm ready to go, Mike.
So I see a message in the chat room, and before I go there, to Slinky YT, he says, I'm nervous.
Oh, yes.
I'm nervous when we play the Chiefs, and you should be nervous. I'm nervous as well. I mean, they, over the last 2 seasons, have played us 3 times, and I felt they handled us easily all 3 times. But we're seeing a kink in the armor. I mean, they should have lost to Cleveland game 1. They let Lamar Jackson do his thing, and of course, not many people can do what Lamar Jackson did in that Sunday night game. But there's a kink in the armor. That defense doesn't look to be where it was the last couple of years. Not that they've always had a shutdown defense, but I don't know. I see a kink in the armor, and I see an opportunity. As long as Josh can get Remember, I mentioned this early in the show. The KC last year kept Josh under 55% pass completion for both games last year. Jake, what do you think?
I definitely see a kink in the armor. That should be an 0-2 football team. So, still worried. Don't get me wrong. Still worried. We know what Pat Mahomes can do. We know what Tyreek Hill can do. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, still a good running back. I know he fumbled. Still a good running back. They have a lot of really good offensive weapons, and we're going to have to definitely bring our A game against them. I know it's very cliche to say, but we have to be as sound as it gets. I'm talking no penalties, no stupid penalties at least. I'm okay with an aggressive penalty here or there. No dumb penalties, no false starts, none of that. You can't make mental errors against the Chiefs. You saw the Ravens, what they did. I mean, they took it right down to the last minute with that. That was such an exciting game to watch. But we're going to have to play A-plus football against the Chiefs because that is still an elite team, even though they should maybe be 0-2 right now.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. So I share your nervousness, but I think there's an opportunity for us this year. So Jake, I have to ask you. You mentioned the table thing, and this is crazy. Yeah. That table thing was not a thing when I was back there in Buffalo, and I don't know how many years ago this became a thing. But have you actually taken a plunge through one of the tables?
I have.
Whoa.
I haven't done it recently. Now I'm a dad, so I'm not really allowed to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I think you still get a pass, though, if you're from Buffalo. And, if it's a big moment, it's okay. Sometimes the adrenaline gets a little too high, and you're just, whatever, I'm going for it.
Yeah.
I have done it. It's been a little bit since I have done it because I hurt my tailbone a little bit. And maybe I didn't have enough beers in me when I did it. But I know it's a big thing, and it gets kind of a negative what's the word? Stimulus? Is that the word? No.
I don't know.
Stigma. Sorry.
Right.
Football guy statement right there. Don't even know what the right word is. Yes, I think it gets kind of a negative stigma. But I think the younger generation has certainly embraced it. But I also don't want to be known as just a team that goes to the tailgate and just wants to get messed up. And I think we're kind of getting away from that because the team is good, and I think it's really good for the city when the team is good too. I mean, you can see it all across town. I mean, I've never seen so many Bills merchandise, so much Bills gear being worn throughout the whole entire city of Buffalo, and it's really exciting to see. I think we're really getting back to those glory days, which is awesome for me and great because I'm bringing up a baby daughter right now, and maybe she'll be able to witness some greatness. So it's fantastic. I love it. And personally, the whole table thing, I don't know how you feel about it, Mike. I think it's funny, and I think it's hilarious that in Jacksonville, there was a rumor that they banned the sales of folding tables because we outnumbered the Jacksonville fans when we went down for that one playoff game when we made it for the first time in 2017 in like 17 years. It gets a bad rap and whatnot, but you know what? Tailgating is part of Buffalo. It's probably as close to a college atmosphere as you can get. Now, I will say the college atmosphere is totally different, and that's an experience in itself. But as far as NFL tailgating experiences, Buffalo is top. No one even comes close. I would say Kansas City and Green Bay are probably up there too. Usually it's the small town teams that are right there, with the tailgating and whatnot, that the whole city kind of rallies around them. But nothing compares to it. I mean, Buffalo is what Buffalo is just because, we just set ourselves apart 100% with all that. So
absolutely,
I love it.
Absolutely,
personally love it.
I mean, I can remember back in the '80s when my grandfather bought season tickets for the Bills, and those the tailgate was just as great back then. So yes, one of the best fans. As far as the tables, Jake, I do think it's funny. I do worry about some of the things I see on YouTube, and I'm like, sometimes these tables are like they don't give way. So I have to ask you, is there like an injury report that goes around town about how many injuries occurred during the the tailgate party?
I would love to run a stat on that. Actually, Mike, maybe I'll get down boots on the ground for a tailgate. I'll go around and interview some people. We can get an injury update on all that. That'd be hilarious.
That would be
amazing. Oh man! Shout out to my office, Liberty Solutions. They do a big tailgate actually every week for every home game. I think my boss is making ribs today, so
nice.
Shout out to those guys. I know they're doing it big over there, so they have a great tailgate setup. I'm not going to say where it is. You guys could probably figure it out since I just gave the name of the business, but he does charge, so unless you know the guy, maybe you can get it in. I don't know, but it's great stuff. I would love to do that. That'd be fun. It'd be really interesting to see especially with how many people actually make it into the game. I think more and more people are making it into the game now, which is good.
Yeah.
Ticket prices are a little too high now. So, also, Slinky says that there's Bills fans in the city of Toronto. Shout out to Toronto. I was a little worried that we were going to be the Toronto Bills. I'm glad that we're not.
Yeah.
But we appreciated having the Blue Jays here. That was pretty awesome. I was unfortunately not able to go to any games, but I know a lot of people that were able to go, and they loved it. I mean, it was great. Atmosphere was great from what I hear. So, awesome stuff. Shout out to Toronto.
Yeah, Jake. When I saw the Yankees come to town to play the Blue Jays, they're in Buffalo. The Yankees. Yankees are my team.
Were you here for that?
No, I wish I was. I wish I was. But no, I'm a huge Yankees fan. I mean, that is my team ever since I was a kid. Obviously, when you're in Buffalo, we don't have a professional team, so you either have to go Yankees or some people go Boston Red Sox. I'm one of the Yankee fans there. So when I saw them come to Buffalo, I was like, oh my God, how cool is that? Some of my friends were at the game posting on Instagram and Facebook. It was amazing. It was amazing. So very cool. It just shows just how the fans get out there and support any team that's considered the home team for them. I mean, Toronto, and they were out there as if that was their team all year round. So it was super cool to see.
It is cool. It's cool to see.
Yeah.
I know, poor Sabres. This guy's saying poor Sabres now. I don't even want to get into that. I don't know what's going on there. It's just been an absolute nightmare.
So my dad and I do a show, and it sounds like you're a Sabre fan as well. So we'll get into some of those shows when we're coming up on, I believe, training camp at the very least, so we can start having those conversations. I did want to ask you a question. So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is this the first home game where you have to prove that you've had the first vaccination shot?
Yes, it is. Yeah, so I'm curious to see how that goes with obviously like letting people in the ticket line and all that. I don't know if you get like a wristband or if it's like if you have to show them your card. I don't know how that's all going to work personally. So that'll definitely be interesting. I know there was a little bit of pushback and people were all pissed off and stuff. So I think there was only like, it was a small percentage of season ticket holders who kind of like forfeited it. Mm-hmm. And then I guess it goes by seniority or something like that. I'm not really sure how all of it works, but yes, it is the first game with that.
Yeah, I saw, I don't know where, I think one of the social media groups where somebody was saying they were finding tickets pretty cheap because people were giving them up because they weren't vaccinated. So
yeah,
I'm curious how many empty seats that might result in this.
I don't think there's going to be empty. There's not going to be any empty seats, Mike. Those will be picked up so fast. I mean, I would sell my soul for the Bills. It sounds terrible. I'd probably, I do a lot of things for the Bills. So here we are.
Awesome. All right. Well, Jake, I super appreciate you being on the show. You can already see, and I hope the folks in the channel, obviously you brought a lot of these folks with you. They can see how passionate you are, how much of a sports fan, a Bills fan, a football fan, and super happy to have you. So thank you for being here. We will see you. We will see you again on the post-game show. Let's go Buffalo. I can't wait to be chatting with you and talking about that Taron Johnson pick six. So let's go.
I love that.
Let's
All right, go Bills, baby.
Everybody, have a great one. Bye now.